The Rainbow Road. From Tooting Broadway to Kalimpong. Memoirs of an English Buddhist. By Sangharakshita. Read by Ratnadhya. You asked, what is this transient pattern? If we tell the truth of it, it will be a long story. It is a pattern that came up out of an ocean, and in a moment returned to the ocean's depth. Omar Khayyam, 1050 to 1123. Chapter 1. Giants and Dragons. On Sunday mornings, when the weather was fine, Father used to take me to see my grandmother, pushing the perambulator with the cream-coloured silk awning through 2 or 3 miles of south-west London streets. As soon as he had swung open the front gate, I used to run up the path and rattle the shining brass letterbox until someone came to let us in, all the time peering eagerly through the coloured glass panels of the big green front door. The hall never failed to interest me, and never did I pass through it without pausing to look up at the Nepalese kukris and Chinese swords and chopstick sets with which the walls were decorated, and rarely could I refrain from ringing the Tibetan ritual handbell that stood in a corner behind the door. What most of all drew my attention was the big Chinese picture on the left-hand wall. This Father had lifted me up to look at ever since I was a baby, and it was thus among the most familiar objects of my childhood. Almost square in shape, it depicted an august and mysterious personage seated cross-legged on a kind of throne. He was arrayed in loosely flowing robes, and behind his head was a nimbus. His features, which were markedly oriental, with slant arm and eyes that gazed into the far distance, were expressive of a remarkable combination of benignity and power. This enigmatic being was surrounded by 6 figures, some making offerings, others playing on musical instruments. None of them was more than 1/10 of the size of their master, whom for this reason I called the Giant. Running into the sitting-room, I found objects to gaze at and even to handle, which were hardly less wonderful than those in the hall. The Chinese cloissonné vases were as fine as any of those which, in later years, I saw in Tibetan temples and at the houses of wealthy Chinese friends, and the exquisite shape of some of them has been, in my experience, unique. One great flagon-shaped pair with gold dragon handles depicted houses, gardens, and human figures. Even now, at a distance of more than 40 years, I can still see a favourite figure in blue gown.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?